we are here in New Hampshire competing for the votes, and at this point it's a turnout game. It is about turning out conservatives, and we are working very directly to earn the votes one at a time from the grassroots. That's our strength.
New Hampshire voters are among the most serious voters in the country, if not the most serious. They look at the issues, at the underlying factors, and they want to know candidates that don't just know what they're talking about, but have a real plan and a real strategy moving forward. And that's what we've built our campaign on, and we feel great about the dividends that's going to pay here in about 24 hours.
Senators Rubio and Cruz today on the trail. The last poll before the real poll, the voting tomorrow, came out, CNN MUR poll. This is a poll that puts Donald Trump at 31%. This is roughly what we've seen. It's important to note in this poll, almost three-quarters of the interviews conducted for the poll were completed before the Republican candidates debated Saturday night, their final matchup before Tuesday. And it says, although the post-debate sample size is too small to produce a separate estimate of the vote, interviews conducted Sunday and Monday found no drop in support for Rubio and actually showed a slimmer margin between Trump and Rubio. That's the interesting part of that poll. Let's bring in our panel. Expanded tonight, Fox News senior political analyst Britt Hume, Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend, A.B. Stoddard, associate editor of The Hill, and Steve Hayes, senior writer for The Weekly Standard. Okay, Britt, do you divine anything from this last
Well, not a lot. I mean, you can't find anybody in any camp that doesn't think Donald Trump is going to win this. So two things apply, it seems to me. One is how big a margin? Will it match the very wide margin that he's had in the polling, or will he perhaps fall short? The second question is, who's next? Who finishes second? The polling that we just looked at has Rubio, but there is a sense that both John Kasich and Jeb Bush even have a chance to make a good showing here and perhaps eclipse him, and it'll remain to be seen whether that can in fact happen.
Tucker, what's fascinating about this place is all the undeclared, undecided voters. I mean, you saw it in that piece that we talked to, Mike, the auto mechanic, who said he's still not decided.
This state has changed so much demographically, it's almost unrecognizable from 20 years ago. It's not exactly clear where those voters are going to go. They're less religious. They're probably less strictly conservative in an orthodox sense. They're potentially Trump voters in that they're non-evangelical working class voters. Will they go to him? I don't know. It does look like he's to win. I would say the two really quick lessons are, one, the establishment is swinging behind Rubio, but they're nervous about him, and they think that the events of the debate night confirm their pre-existing suspicions that he's fragile and not flexible. And two, no matter, they're assuming that Trump will get out or melt down or whatever. Maybe that's true. They need to be thinking about how to win over those non-evangelical working class voters who are the kind of pivotal chunk that the Republican Party needs to win in November. And I don't see any evidence that they're thinking through how to do that.
On the campaign bus, John Kasich does exude this confidence, and his people seem to be like they're bullish on this. A.B.
You get a sense from Kasich the most, but also from Jeb Bush that they've done all they can, that they feel so good about what they've done here, no matter what the debates or the polls nationally or Iowa or anywhere else, what they've done right here in the Granite State makes them feel so good. The response that they're getting, the response they get from their teams who go out and canvass, people are solidly behind them in increasing numbers. They're both really the ones to watch tomorrow. If they surge over Rubio and close to Trump, then Rubio's debate performance actually really did have an impact. If not, it's still going to be jumbled. I mean, if you look at just the votes of Christie, Rubio, Cruz, and Rubio, Kasich, Jeb, and Christie, it's still larger than the share of the Trump vote. So as much as it makes the establishment nervous, it's breathed new life into several candidacies, and they will all go on, I think, maybe with the exception of Christie if he doesn't do well, to South Carolina and beyond.
Steve, you spent the day with Rubio.
I did. It was a very interesting day. We talked. I asked him about the debate, of course, and asked him about his performance there, and he didn't back down. He said, look, I'm going to make this argument. I'm going to keep making it because it's what I believe. But he also had an analogy that he shared with me. He said he's glad that his boys are going to play football because when he played football in college, if he was beat on a long pass, an 80-yard fly route down the sidelines as a cornerback, he knew that he had to forget about it and get up the next play and play well again. And he told the story about how that happened to him in a game, and he recovered, and the next time he intercepted the pass in the end zone, The interesting thing for me about that was I went with him to several events. He gave a small speech at a little pub in Goffstown near Manchester here. And, this idea that Marco Rubio is overly scripted, he blew it up in this one speech. In the speech, he cited a poll that he had seen on Fox News as we were driving to the tavern. He raised and answered a question that he'd been asked by a radio interviewer a half hour earlier at a previous stop. And then he told a story spontaneously about his a rehab group that he had seen at Mass with his wife over the weekend. All of it off the cuff, some of it quite powerful. And I guess it made me think, this is not a guy who's overly scripted. He can talk. Now, you might not like what he's saying, but he's not overly scripted despite the debate moment.
Well, just one thought about this. It's interesting. You can't find anybody that doesn't think Trump is going to win. But when you talk to them about, their contact with Trump voters, John Sununu told me today, John Sununu Sr. told me today.
Who's not a Trump fan, we should point out.
No, he's not. That's true. But he said that he doesn't doubt. I mean, he thinks the Trump support is real, and he expects it to turn out. He expects Trump to win. He says he talks to people all the time. I mean, he knows everybody in the state. He was governor here, and he said he has yet to find anybody who's for Trump. And I said, well, maybe, Governor, they're not telling you. He said, oh, people tell me anything. And just moving around, you see yard signs for everybody. I've seen one for Trump. So I think those people are out there, but I think the mystery of Donald Trump's support and why and who remains right up until the eve of the New Hampshire primary. It's interesting.
Those rallies are chock full of them, though.
They're chock full. I mean, we'll find out whether, this is a Pauline Kael moment, whether we just don't know anybody who would support Trump. I do think that's part of what's going on. There's a massive class divide in the Republican Party between the people who run it and pay for it and a lot of their voters and potential voters, and that's kind of the key. There's also a social stigma attached to supporting Trump. I've talked to 5 people, mostly Uber drivers, who will, as soon as someone tells you they're not going to tell you who they're voting for, Trump voter. Will they actually get out to vote or not? I have no idea. But they're there.